Hey everyone, this is Alex with Tiger Talk Podcast. Today we're digging into, it's finally week 1. We made it and we're talking about LSU and they are 1-0. What a phenomenal, impressive road win on the road. So let's get to it. Hey everyone, this is Alex with Tiger Talk Podcast, and we have finally made it to week 1, and LSU is 1-0. Haven't been able to say that in more than a couple of years, and what a surprisingly dominant performance LSU did on the road. So we're going to talk LSU football 1-0. We're going to also talk about the other games. And shout out to Lee Corso, just going out as a legend. All his picks were absolutely correct, and we'll get into that at the end of the episode. So let's get into it. LSU, first of all, massive standing ovation to Blake Baker. You know, when the game was starting, I had the pregame jitters because I was just like, I do not want LSU starting off 0-1, especially after the massive campaign Brian Kelly and company took to their players. We have to start off the season 1-0. All of their equipment they were training with had the Clemson paw on it, and just such a massive push to, we need to start 1-0. And so as kickoff started and that first run, I was kind of shocked, to be honest with you. Now, I will say they did not play perfect. LSU did not play perfect. There are some things, and Brian Kelly even said they need to adjust. I think within the first half, Garrett had to call 2 timeouts, and I also believe that's also maybe some pregame jitters there. You're playing in a hostile road environment. But also shout out to the LSU fans who made that travel. I know Devin Snow with Hold the Mayo, Tingle and Co. Those guys are awesome to just make that road trip absolutely phenomenal. So massive props to all LSU fans that made that trip to witness such a game. So when you were looking at that run game, I think the run game, it still needs to improve, but it was not where it was last year, and that was such a relief. Garrett Nussmeier, absolutely just stoic, mature. He was playing in a hostile environment. It did not look like it fazed him whatsoever, and LSU's defense, absolutely dominant. Just dominant, and that reminds me of LSU 2011, 2012 defense. So let's just start off with the pregame narrative. You had everyone picking Clemson, except for Lee Corso. You had everybody picking Clemson, and they were saying that this was going to be a gunslinger game, a high-flying offense, and actually I think the defense is the one that stole the show, because it was not a high-scoring game. Now, I do believe that throw from Garrett Nussmeier to Barry Brown, that was an absolute tutty. That was a touchdown. And for them to completely reverse the call like that, to say it was an incomplete pass, absolutely unnecessary. I think the game should have been 24-10, but I digress. But LSU's defense. So let's go in the first half. Clemson's defense was stout, forcing 2 fumbles by LSU wide receivers in the first half. These turnovers, including a key strip at the Clemson 13-yard line, were crucial in keeping LSU off the scoreboard. Clemson's offense managed to find the end zone with a 1-yard touchdown run on a gusty 4th down call by Dabo. Their running game, however, struggled mightily as LSU's run defense proved to be a significant challenge. Clemson went into the halftime with a 10-3 lead. Injury impact, and I think this is crucial. Clemson suffered a major blow early in the game when preseason All-American wide receiver Antonio Williams went down with an injury, and he did not return. And it clearly had an impact on Clemson's passing game. Now, the second half, I kind of see that as the LSU comeback. The momentum of the game shifted in the second half, specifically in the third quarter, and LSU was able to take control. The momentum shift. The turning point was an early third quarter missed 48-yard field goal by Clemson's Nolan Hauser. This gave LSU good field position and a jolt of energy. And when I saw Clemson's kicker Nolan Hauser miss that field goal, I could truly felt that swing of momentum, that shift of momentum, and that jolt of energy all back on LSU. And it's key, Garrett Nussmeier and his just leadership and confidence really led the charge to that. Let's talk about Nussbus. He settled in and really began to carve up the Clemson's defense. He threw for 134 of his 230 total yards in the second half, leading 2 crucial touchdowns in the drive. LSU's defense. While the offense found its rhythm, LSU's defense was the star of the show. Absolutely dominant. They completely shut down Clemson's running game, holding them to a paltry of only 31 yards on 20 carries for the entire game. I'm going to repeat that. LSU's defense was absolutely dominant. Unbelievable masterclass game calling by Blake Baker. And my hope and other LSU fans' hope is that this defense will only get more stout, more sharp, more faster, getting better as each game goes, and so are their offense. So I'm going to repeat that stat. LSU's defense completely shut down Clemson's running game, only holding them to 31 yards on 20 carries for the entire game. This predictability in the Clemson's offense allowed LSU's defense to play more aggressively and put constant pressure on Cade Klubnik. They limited Klubnik to a 19 of 38 passing performance with an interception, and while he was only sacked twice, he was under relentless pressure the whole game. The go-ahead score. The game-winning touchdown came on a clutch 8-yard pass from Nussmeier to tight end Trey Green in the fourth quarter. Clemson's defense made some big stops late in the game to give Klubnik 2 chances to tie, but the offense could not capitalize. That just goes to show how dominant LSU's defense was, and that final drive ended on a 4th down incompletion, seeing a win for LSU to go 1-0 since 2019. So I feel like the key takeaways for LSU, an improved defense is an understatement. This was the most encouraging sign for LSU, and I believe if you're my fellow LSU fans, this defense kind of reminds me of like the 2011-2012 LSU defense. The retooled defense with new personnel and a focus on playing more man-to-man coverage delivered in a big way. Their dominant run defense was particularly impressive, holding Clemson's ground attack in check and making their offense one-dimensional. And that was so key because Klubnik can run, and he had some great run plays in the game. But LSU's defense made Clemson's ground attack in check and make their offense one-dimensional. Also, huge cue to mental toughness. After a mistake-filled first half and trailing 10-3, LSU showed the mental and physical toughness that Coach BK had been seeking. They didn't let the early turnovers define their performance and came out strong in the second half. Nussmeier's resilience. While not perfect, Nussmeier showed great composure in the second half, the maturity, his ability to overcome early struggles, and lead scoring drives against a talented defense, and a positive sign for the season. And this is key. There was no interceptions by Nussmeier whatsoever. The running game. Caden Durham had a solid performance with 74 yards and a touchdown, which was key to completing Nussmeier's second half passing. Caden Durham, stand up. For Clemson, Klubnik was under pressure. While he is talented, and I'm really interested to see how far Clemson goes. Klubnik was under duress for much of the game and couldn't find his rhythm. The lack of running game and the relentless pressure from LSU's defensive line were major factors. So that guys was just so key. LSU remained committed to the run on first down and overall. It wasn't an explosive day from the ground game, but LSU continued to hammer and really push the time of possession, and that is so key. Garrett had really productive days through the air, but he was in complete command on Saturday night, and that goes back to the maturity I was talking about. Let's talk about LSU defense. Cade Klubnik only completed half of his throws, 19 for 38. Star sophomores TJ Moore and Bryant Westco Jr. only caught 8 of 18 targets. Clemson did not have a rush of 10 yards or plus. The Tigers' long run of the night was 7 yards. Whit Weeks and Harold Perkins, absolute dogs. Whit Weeks and Harold Perkins were each credited with 2 quarterback hurries. P.J. Woodland tied for the team lead with 5 tackles. He also registered a sack and broke up a pass. LSU was credited with 6 pass breakups. The Tigers' defense only topped that number twice in 2024 with USC and Ole Miss. Clemson was just 3 for 13 on third down. Clemson only ran the ball 4 times after halftime and attempted a pass on all 7 first down plays. LSU won the second half time of possession by 20 minutes and 33 seconds to 9 minutes and 27 seconds. You couldn't ask much more from Blake Baker and LSU's defense. Just an absolute shutout in the second half. And the Tigers honestly never allowed Cade Klubnik and company to get back to that end zone. So, unbelievable. Just unbelievable. And the hope that I have, and for other LSU fans to have, is if LSU can play like they did against Clemson and get better and straighten out the things that need to be straightened out and continue to improve, they're definitely going to be winning 10 games. Now, as of Monday, when this episode's dropping, Labor Day, you have the media completely making a 180 for LSU. And let me baptize my tonsils, as my pastor likes to say, and take a sip of water. You have the media completely doing a 180 on LSU. Mind you, just on Saturday, pull up the receipts. You can go look at game day. Everyone picked Clemson to win, except for Lee Corso. And he will never say it publicly, but I know when Brian Kelly laid his head on his pillow on Saturday night, or maybe the wee hours of Sunday morning, there was such a relief. And Lord willing, moving this season, all players are healthy and etc. But the performance LSU had against Clemson is one of the reasons to have a game like that is why Garrett Nussmeier came back. And for us to be 1-0, the first time since 2019, Man, it feels good. What a great day to be a Tiger. And for LSU to hold that title, listen, the real Death Valley is on the bayou in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, where the sun sets in the western sky. LSU plays a home game next weekend against Louisiana Tech. Louisiana Tech completely shut out Southeastern, and I know what you're thinking. LSU should absolutely dominate Louisiana Tech, and they should. But there's always a dark horse with some teams. LSU cannot take this moment for granted. LSU cannot overlook each opponent that they play every single week. They can't. And man, looking at how South Carolina, Lenore Sellers, just such dominance. South Carolina is a scary team. They are. So, like Brian Kelly said, we have a long season, but what a way to make a tone, to set a tone, and to really put the whole country on notice. Because absolutely, LSU look like the best team in the country on Saturday night. So, I'm excited. And I'll also say, starting next weekend, the Saints, they premiered their gold jerseys, their season opener in the Dome against the Cardinals. The state of Louisiana would be in such a cloud nine haze if next weekend LSU is 2-0 and the Saints win their season opener to go 1-0. It would be absolutely pandemonium, to be honest with you. So, much to look forward to, and I'm just truly looking forward to what's to come for LSU. I really, really do. Now, something that, let's look at the other key matchups on Saturday, and also that was on Sunday. The big hype of the Ohio State versus Texas game. Listen, Saturday from 9 a.m. till probably 11 o'clock p.m. I watched nonstop football. Very blessed to do so. I watched, just like many of you, that Ohio State-Texas game. What a lackluster performance offensively. It just, for all the hype for it to be there, the game was honestly so bland, man. It like a manila folder. It truly was, and that's no disrespect to Ohio State or Texas, but it was. And all this huge hype train on Arch Manning, and no disrespect to him, I believe he has incredible talent. I believe he's going to grow. He has some growing pains to go through, but his performance was not Heisman level. And Brian Kelly said this, I believe, this offseason in a press conference. In an interview he did. Someone asked him on ESPN, would you rather take Arch Manning or Garrett Nussmeier? And Brian Kelly respectfully gave Arch his flowers and his respect. But Brian Kelly said something that I believe is so true, and people forget about it in the hype. Brian Kelly said, I'm going to take a quarterback who has had the experience playing season in and season out SEC road games and playing at home and having that experience. You can't duplicate that experience. You can't just... That experience is authentic. And Garrett Nussmeier has that experience. And Arch Manning does not. He does not yet. So Brian Kelly said, I'll take the much more experienced quarterback than Arch Manning. And he's absolutely right. So Ohio State, Texas, 14-7. it was a very defensive game. I believe, Texas has a long season, so does Ohio State. But it's very well, listen, Texas is going to get better as each game progresses. Ohio State's going to get better as each game progresses. Ohio State is the defending national champions. I don't expect anything less. But, man, that game, that build-up to the game was a lot. And just seeing it, it was just lackluster offensively. Excuse me. The shocker, I say, for Saturday was Alabama versus Florida State. I think Florida State has more of a announcement than the shock of Alabama on how horribly they lost. It's not that Alabama lost. It's how they lost. And honestly, I think it comes back to discipline and culture. For Alabama. When you had Nick Saban, you had discipline, you had culture, and that bled onto the field. You leave everything on the field. There is no half-assing anything. And this Alabama team seems like it has a culture issue, a discipline issue. Now, Florida State just completely shoved the ball down Alabama's throat all game. And to see Alabama in such a state of vulnerability, I mean, Kalen DeBoer on the sideline, it looks like he was staring in the sun the whole time. He looked clueless. The Ty Simpson, the quarterback for Alabama, absolutely, the first half, he was rocking and rolling, but after that, Florida State's defense had his number, and he couldn't get anything going. To see Alabama come out, honestly, it looked unprepared. It is something that is unheard of. I mean, for the past decade, Alabama has been this machine of just quality football, and you did not see that with the Alabama that came out against Florida State. What a huge statement for Norvell and his Florida State team. Hiring Gus Malzahn, absolute 5-star home run. Alabama couldn't keep up, just couldn't. And Florida State, I think, made more of a statement than the Alabama loss, because Florida State, if they can carry this momentum, I don't think Florida State's going to go undefeated. I think they will have a loss or two. But how are they going to bounce back from that loss and that adversity? But Florida State to just steamroll Alabama after the season that they had just a year ago, going, I believe, only winning 2 games last year. Unbelievable on what a year can do, what happens when you get new coaching personnel, hiring 5-star coaches, Gus Malzahn for Florida State, having that transfer QB, Castellanos, absolute stud, went in, 10 toes everything, made the statement in the spring, listen, Alabama does not have Nick Saban to save them anymore, and they can't stop me. And he absolutely backed up his talk on Saturday. What a turnaround in Tallahassee. I mean, unbelievable. And to see where Florida State's going to go can only be nowhere but up. But also, as in Sunday's night's game, Notre Dame versus Miami. Listen, Carson Beck has a great offense, okay? And they're in the ACC. It'll be very interesting to see the Florida State-Miami matchup, I believe, towards the end of the year. I'm interested to see how Alabama bounces back. Can they bounce back? And it's up to the head coach to steer the ship and do so. And guys, I also want to look at this too, because I think a lot of people forget that you had South Carolina and Virginia Tech. South Carolina and Virginia Tech, what a statement made by Coach Shane Beamer and the Gamecocks. Lenore Sellers, absolutely no one could stop him. That dude's a giant. And South Carolina plays in Baton Rouge early in the season, and I'll be honest with you, that could be a dark horse game. South Carolina wants revenge from losing at home last year. South Carolina keeps on playing like they're playing, and LSU gets in a relaxed mode. South Carolina can come in to Death Valley and really give LSU a run for their money. So South Carolina looking like a blue chip team also. Just Shane Beamer has everything in place to make a run. Tennessee and Syracuse. I'm a huge fan of Fan Brown for Big Orange for Syracuse. But listen, Josh Heupel, their quarterback, I think fits his scheme much more, his offensive scheme much more. But Syracuse played it with a chip on their shoulder. And I know the score doesn't reflect that, with Tennessee having 45 and Syracuse having 26. But Syracuse came out to play, man. And Tennessee is also starting off their season 1-0. And I'm really interested to see how this football season goes for Tennessee. Of course, Georgia opened with Marshall. They blew out Marshall 45-7. But I will say this, Kirby Smart has a team again. Those guys are never in rebuilding mode. They're always in reloading mode. And Georgia is a top contender for sure. Penn State played Nevada. Penn State won 46-11. Penn State's looking good. Of course, Texas A&M played UTSA. Texas A&M won 42-24. Texas A&M starting 1-0. Florida, of course, they played LIU. They completely smoked them out the water, 55-0. Florida is the first SEC team that LSU plays in Death Valley, the real Death Valley, in Baton Rouge. That game, a lot of people are speculating College Game Day is going to be there. I was thinking College Game Day was going to be in Baton Rouge for the LSU Texas A&M game. My goal was to go to the LSU Florida game. I don't know if I can. Okay, just being honest. But it should be both teams being undefeated. That game, you cannot look over Tech. You should take care of business over Tech if you're LSU. But this LSU-Florida matchup, I mean, Death Valley is going to be rocking. Ole Miss played Georgia State, and Ole Miss won 63-7. Again, it's against Georgia State. But this year, LSU plays at Ole Miss, and that's going to be another hostile environment. But I go back to just the dominance LSU's defense had, and if everyone can stay healthy, offensively and defensively, and we continue to play and get better and improve like we did from Saturday, there's no reason LSU couldn't go 10-0. Absolutely no reason that LSU can't go 10-0. Football's back. Man, I had such a, I just felt like a lazy cat on Saturday. I mean, woke up, I went, my tradition is every Saturday, at least I try, is go to Cracker Barrel and I had me some Cracker Barrel early Saturday morning. I came home. It was like 9 a.m. Man, I turned on ESPN, was watching College Game Day, and as someone who has grown up my whole life and seen and watched Lee Corso pick the headgear, I have been got to see Lee Corso pick the headgear in person at least 3 and 4 times, and those are memories I'll have forever. He's literally been doing it my whole life, picking the headgear, and you can't replicate that. You truly can't. I know he's getting up in age and etc., but he definitely ran his race well, and that nostalgia of looking forward to the headgear pick, that's definitely going to be missed. And it was only so fitting for him to end it where he started it, which is at Ohio State, and for him to pick Brutus. So gonna miss that. I'm interested to see how College Game Day moves forward. Obviously, they're not gonna do headgear pick with anyone else, and rightfully so. That should be retired also, because only one person can do that, and that is Lee Corso. But I'm interested to see how College Game Day moves moving forward. But what an end of an era truly is. I saw Lee Corso in New Orleans picking the headgear when Alabama and Ohio State played in New Orleans, and I think Ohio State ended up winning that game. So I got to be in New Orleans. I saw that right with my own eyes, and that was incredible. I've been on LSU's campus when College Game Day was there, and I've seen Lee Corso pick Mike, and that's just incredible. And so those are memories I'm going to have forever. What an end of an era. It's going to be missed. But guys, moving forward, I'm trying to get a YouTube channel started, but baby steps here, and so just bear with me. But I'm excited. Football's back. Moving forward, the post game, depending on what time the game is. If LSU has a noon game, then the post game would be right after. But if it's a night game, most post games are gonna be not until Sunday. And also the same post games for the New Orleans Saints. So what an end of an era for Lee Corso and College Game Day, but what a starting of an era next weekend under Kellen Moore and the New Orleans Saints. And I was born a Saints fan. I'll die a Saints fan. I can never pledge my allegiance to any other team. Now, there's other LSU greats that are not playing for the Saints, like Will Campbell. Man, I'm just so excited for him. He is my favorite player, Will Campbell. I'm a massive fan of. Of course, Joe Burrow, Jaden Daniels. The list goes, Mason Taylor. The list goes on and on. Of course, they play for other NFL franchises. I'm pulling for them more than I am their franchise. But it's always going to be New Orleans, baby. It's always going to be the Saints. And we've been through very dark times, and I have been blessed to be alive when we hit the mountaintop and we won the Super Bowl. So we're just a new ending of eras and the starting of new, and football's back, and I can't wait. I can't wait to see how this season goes, and for LSU to start the season 1-0, such a relief. And I'm telling you, next weekend, LSU goes 2-0, beats Louisiana Tech, and the Saints win their season opener in the Dome. The state would be in pandemonium, honestly. And I look forward to it. So until next time, go Tigers, go Saints, who dat, baby. And we'll touch base post-game next weekend.